Welcome once again to the decline of wrestling civilization. I am the horrible Joe Martel. Back in my radio days, I was called Joe the Hammer by my radio teacher because the name Martel is pretty much French for hammer, marteau. So I'm a Greg Valentine fan, and then with the last name Martel, I'm a Rick Martel fan as well. Yes. But joining me, less important than my nicknames, obviously.
We got heat already. Look at that.
Look at that. The cult icon with a much better nickname than I do, the cult icon Eric Mutter. How are we doing today?
Well, I cut my finger on a nail on the back of this chair a minute ago before the show started. See, you don't even know that. I'm surprising you right now with that.
You are selling like a champion.
Yes, I no sold it. I was like Hogan in that match we were talking about. We were talking about, just for so everybody knows, Hogan Warrior 2 before coming on the air. And I had the great reenactment of Hogan going to Eric Bischoff before the match going, Eric, Horace Hogan's got to help me win this match, brother. We got to get heat on Horace, brother. He's got to get the weakest chair shot of all time after I throw the fireball at Warrior's face, dude.
That misses, Brother Jack.
Yeah, that misses, Brother Jack, dude.
I don't want to say I respect Hogan because that's definitely not the way I want to say it, but I respect parts of Hogan's career. That's not one of them.
I don't think anybody respects that. I need to one day do, because I used to do entries of Hulk Hogan's more hilarious work in WCW in my writing career. Right. I might have to cover that time, with the Mirror and the Disciple and that match. Oh, the President run.
Oh man, yeah, presidential run. And looking back at some of the presidential stuff we've seen over the last year, that might not have been so bad after all. I don't know.
I think Hogan. Well, hey, as we've seen with Hogan, he doesn't lose the best either. He too would have demanded a rematch or a recount.
My shoulder was up at 3, brother.
He's like, oh God, we're going to get into that one too, because our first topic, we are Lucha Central. It's Triple Mania.
That's right. So inform the Canadian who doesn't really know much about Lucha. I loved Lucha Underground, but the in-ring work wasn't really what captured me. It was more the universe and the storytelling. So inform me, what was amazing about Triple Mania? Because I've heard nothing but awesome things from you since Saturday.
Yes. Well, everybody is very happy with it. So what made this Triple Mania great? Well, I mean, it was an awesome wrestling show, number one. There was 7 matches. 4 of them were great. 2 of those 4, I would say, were 2 of the best matches I saw this year.
Nice.
So there's that. That always helps right there, having the great wrestling. It felt like a big show. They treated it like a normal Triple Mania, just without the people there, like a WrestleMania type thing. There was, there was musical performances. There was a rap performance. There was a musical performance by this new metal band called Molotov, which I thought was really good. They're really good. There was, stuff like that.
When you say new metal band, do you mean the genre new metal, or are they a new band that
No, I'm talking like, Slipknot, Limp Bizkit stuff. Well, I feel bad now for lumping Slipknot in there. They don't deserve to be there.
But the Limp Bizkit, Korn, Taproot, that type of era.
Yeah. I'd say more, these guys were good, so we'll go with Korn.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll disagree on that one, but but
I only say that because if we're comparing it to either Korn or Limp Bizkit, which one are you going to go with? Not my man Fred Durst. All right.
I hate Fred Durst, but I think Limp Bizkit had the better highlights, especially wrestling wise. With
you're only saying that because of the My Way video.
My Way video for WrestleMania 17, right? But anyways, I don't want to get too into music, but they had a couple of non-hits that I did enjoy as well.
Yeah, but no, these guys were very good. It's a Spanish English rock band, pretty much. They were very good. So you had stuff like that, and I mean, yeah, it just felt like a big show, which is what Triple Mania is. It's one of the oldest. I mean, so what are we at? We're at WrestleMania 36 now. Is it
I
36?
think we just did 36, I believe.
So
So
we're going to be at
37 is what's coming
37.
up.
Yeah, Triple Mania is now, this was their 28th. So
Okay.
this is another long running big show series and such. I think the three oldest at this point are pretty much, because even Wrestle Kingdom is a generally new concept. They've always done the Tokyo Dome show, but the Wrestle Kingdom
The title,
incarnation is recent. So with Starrcade gone, the three longest running big shows are pretty much WrestleMania, Triple Mania, and then the longest running is CMLL's anniversary show,
Okay.
which has been going on for 80 something years.
Quick,
So,
ridiculous aside. I used to
yes.
think that WCW's #1 event was Super Brawl, only
Ooh.
because I associated WrestleMania as I'm the WWF guy. So WrestleMania was the one show that they counted with Roman numerals. So I thought that meant the primary show. And that's what I assumed of Super Brawl, because when they had the SNES video game come out, I realized, oh, Super Brawl, and then all their cards were with Roman numerals. That must be their big show of the year.
Yep.
Thank you, I was wrong.
It was a big show. It just wasn't the big
Starrcade.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, Starrcade was the bigger show, and for a time was just as equal to WrestleMania until they started doing stuff that is just going to make me mad if we discuss it. So let's get back to Triple
Mania. That's right.
Yes. So, all right, let me do a quick rundown here. So the opening match, great opener, was Poder del Norte, Carta Brava Jr., Mocho Cota Jr., and not that Tito Santana. We cannot stress it enough. It is not the Strike Force guy, all right? Stop bringing it up. They took on Maximo, famous for destroying a sports car in the Arena Mexico parking lot once upon a time, Mr. Iguana, and Dinastia, who was replacing Nino Hamburguesa, our favorite hamburger-eating luchador, unfortunately had a leg injury and could not compete. So this was just your typical fast-paced, high-spot opener that you would have loathed with a passion, and I, of course, really, really liked.
I usually don't mind them when they're the openers. They're not my style, but I think TNA, or Impact, I should say, they tend to really use their X Division to start off a card really well. It's never my style of match, but it gets good energy for the show. So I still would have respected it for that point.
Right. Well, this was a little higher level than the Impact one because these guys are doing crazier stuff. Iguana in particular, that guy's really good. Very charismatic. Can blend great lucha with great comedy. If there had been fans there, I think he would have gotten over huge. Okay. Of course, he took the pin at the end, but, you know, there's no fans there. It's not going to hurt that much. So that was a great opener. The second match was the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon and Phoenix. They successfully defended the AAA tag team titles against Octagon and Mystices Jr., Rey a Scorpion, and our good friend Tejano Jr.
Love you, Tejano.
And I just want to say, with all sincerity, he was the best guy in this match. He was great in this match. I cannot praise him enough. I thought he did a hell of a job. And it's not like the other guys were bad. This was a very good match, another strong match. They sold the Pentagon leg injury that he had on Dynamite, so they worked that in. He was actually taken out for a while. And then they did he heroically fights through the pain, comes back in, and he won the match at the end for him and Phoenix. So they retained. There was a couple of run-ins after the match between Taurus and Hijo del Vikingo, which had a few spectacular spots as well. Overall, a big success.
Very good.
I forgot about they inducted La Parca into the Hall of Fame in between those two matches. Not a huge ceremony. Very well done, very subtle. The women's match, which turned out to be, instead of a 6-way, a 9 or 10 women Royal Rumble style match.
Phew.
For the Copa Triple Mania. It was won by Lady Shani. It was not very good. Bad booking. The Royal Rumble rules were confusing. That's really all we need to say there. There was a few good spots. It was the worst match on the show.
Wasn't there a recent Impact Women's Battle Royal that it gave you the similar impression where it was just badly booked and ended up not being very good?
I believe you're referring to the Slammiversary gauntlet match with the women. And I will say this, I did not like this AAA women's match. I would watch it 1,000,000 times over the Impact match you just brought up.
Well, now we know how bad it was.
I am having nightmares as we speak. I'm not even asleep, and I'm having nightmares over that Impact match. Why did you remind me? Anyway.
I'm an idiot.
No. Don't be mean to yourself here. Anyway. After that, what did we have after that? So then we had Psycho Clown, Monster Clown, Murder Clown, Los Psycho Circus against LA Park, Blue Demon, and LA Park's son.
For the Psycho Circus, do they come out to Kiss music?
No.
Okay.
They used to come out to some rock song, but now the copyright people have come for AAA, so they have to use in-house music now.
Gotcha.
It was fine. This is one of those matches, like for most of the show, I was like, oh, didn't even notice there wasn't a crowd. This was a match where I noticed, oh boy, they really need a crowd here. Like if they had had a crowd, I think it would have been good, but without a crowd, it was kind of just a match.
Just fell flat.
Just felt flat. Mm-hmm. The big thing from it was LA Park saved Murder Clown's life. Murder Clown went for a flip dive. He did not get enough rotation. He was falling on his head, and Park, who was there to catch him, bravely stepped in and kept him from landing on his head, and in the process tweaked his leg. So he could not dance with his daughter on her birthday this past Sunday. Murder Clown sent a apology video because he is a very nice man, this Murder Clown.
Such an odd name for a nice man.
I know. Yeah, he's very good though. Very good. After the match, the big thing after the match was Demon and Park brawled. So they're going to now be feuding.
Okay.
If they're able to get fans and one of them is willing to lose the mask, that's big money right there for AAA. So that's why they did that.
As a non-Lucha fan, when you think of the big names, first off, one thing that I got to say, this relationship, this friendship that you and I have had over the years, what you've educated me on the most is that the older a lot of these Lucha stars get, the more my style of wrestling it becomes. So Park and Demon are two people that have stood out because is this the same Demon that we saw on Lucha Underground?
Yes.
Okay.
Somehow improved from that because he wasn't strong on Lucha Underground.
No, but he still showed a lot of talent to my style of wrestling, and then obviously we know everything else. So that's an intriguing match. I'm not saying I'm going to go out to watch it, but out of everything you've mentioned so far, that's one that would grab my attention.
Right. Well, you know LA Park. He has only one speed, and that is very fast, and he only has two modes. Chaos and greatness, and so he will find a way if they do this match.
Anyone who's also not much into Lucha, you catch Park stuff in MLW, and you'll get caught up to exactly to what.
Watch
Eric
the Jacob Fatu match.
Yeah, exactly.
That match was great.
One of the best. I don't know if they're really independent, but independent main events that I caught over 2019.
One of the best pay-per-view main events of last year, but definitely the best MLW match that I can recall in recent memory.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm hard pressed to remember a better one.
Yeah, that was a great match. So after that, we had the Marvel match, and I have the identities for you.
Right on. So the deal was here that AAA was going to take on some Marvel characters in AAA,
Yes. Yes, pretty much. They put AAA AEW and MLW guys under Marvel personas with costumes that, I'm going to be honest, could have been a little more impressive, but Marvel probably has another Spider-Man movie to make or something. I don't know.
They got a little bit of a priority, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So Terror Purpura, who was Thanos, was indeed Brian Cage.
Okay.
Not surprising at all, although some people confused him for Wardlow or Hammerstone, even as Cage was using the same finisher he always uses.
Okay.
Yeah, but some people. His partner, Venenoid, was Taurus.
You mentioned him earlier in the show, right?
He made a run-in as Taurus earlier and then went back, got changed, and came out as this new character. Mm-hmm. Spider-Man, or Arachno, was Leo Rush.
Nice.
Yes. if you're keeping score, that was the third show I believe Lio Rush was involved in on Saturday night. And so, well, actually, no, it was at least 2 because he worked the Super J Cup
Right.
thing. Triple Mania was live, so that's the only one he appeared live on. And his partner, Leyenda Americana, to the disappointment of everyone involved, and I don't care if he's listening, I'm going to make fun of him anyway, Daga.
Oh, okay.
Daga.
You liked Daga at one point.
That was many years ago.
Really? Okay.
Yes. And I was a fool back then, as it turned out. I mean, okay, in all seriousness, he's a talented guy.
Yeah.
He has just chosen not to be a talented guy for one reason or the other for most of the last few years. And I mean, he did try harder here. This match was, again, fine. It fell flat to me, even flatter than the previous match. The crowd not being there hurt this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is what it is. The presentation, I thought, could have been a little bit better. I mean, they were just kind of generic Lucha costume, although the Spider-Man one was pretty cool.
Very nice.
But they did that because it was going to be obvious if they didn't cover Lio Rush up with a hoodie and make him look like Miles Morales that, oh, it's a black guy, it's Lio Rush or ACH, because that's immediately people, you know, we're not going to get into that.
Got to play the identity politics with some people.
We're not going to get into people and their short-sightedness here. So that's why they did that, so it would make sure you didn't know who it was. The other costumes, you could pretty much tell immediately. They weren't all that impressive. And, you know, the work was fine. Lio Rush was great because he's always great.
Very good.
I do think he was kind of miscast because he's small and he can fly, but he's not a huge dive guy.
No.
He's more of a great worker than he is a dives guy. So he was kind of miscast there. Daga did his poor man Roderick Strong act. You know, Taurus was great, but he was barely in it. And Cage was Cage, you know. And
very dependable.
Yep, very dependable, but, you know, the rest of it kind of just fell flat. So
sure.
There you go.
What else happened on that show?
So after that, we thankfully got into the great stuff.
Okay.
We got Kenny Omega versus Laredo Kid for the Mega Championship. This match was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It was exactly what everybody hoped it would be. It was even better than we all hoped it would be, minus the part where, so Don Callis was not there.
Okay.
I guess he does not travel to Mexico for whatever reason. So they sent Michael Nakazawa in his place.
Okay.
And he's travel buddy and good friend. So Nakazawa was his second. And Nakazawa had 3 jobs in this match. He was supposed to catch Vikingo, who was Laredo's second, when Vikingo did this huge stage dive. He was supposed to distract Laredo Kid towards the end of the match,
mm-hmm.
and he was supposed to catch Omega on his Terminator dive when Laredo Kid moved out of the way.
I think you're setting us up that something went wrong.
Nakazawa did the first 2 things correctly.
Okay, good.
When Omega did his dive, he did not do that one correctly, and Omega landed flat on his back.
Was it a baby oil accident?
According to, no. If it would have been on BTE this week, and it wasn't. So there was no baby oil involved on that one. Poor Kenny just went flat on his back, and you could audibly hear Nakazawa say, "Oh, Kenny, I'm so sorry, man." It's just, that was the lone blot on the match. It was a great match. I think it would have even had some stuff you would have enjoyed, because at the end, it was built around Omega selling the leg, Laredo Kid doing the Robbie Eagles New Japan spot where he did the 450 onto the leg, and then put him in a reverse figure 4 and Helico's finishing submission,
mm-hmm. the
Navarro death roll. And then later he rolled out of the one-wing angel and put another leg submission in. And these were both long submission spots that the back end of the match was built on. Very well done. It, of course, had the great athleticism, the great dives, the great moves. And then finally, in the end, Nakazawa distracted Laredo as he was going for another top rope move. And Omega hit a avalanche one-winged angel off the top rope, facing the top rope. Just
Stupid.
Stupid, but insanity, and pulled off in a way that I can't imagine anybody else doing. And that did, in fact, get the win. Now, we brought up earlier, Hogan, doing the kick out thing.
Right.
Laredo Kid, it was booked intentionally this way. About a half a second after Omega got the pin, Laredo Kid did the kick out at 3.5 thing.
Gotcha.
Right? Because AAA, because Laredo Kid's going to be the guy around, presumably, unless Vince saw this match. It was like, we can't have him going to AEW, bring him in. Grand Metal Leak and Lindsay Dorado need a new friend. Let's bring Laredo in.
Your joke has been repeated 84 times over the course of these podcasts.
And I will keep repeating it, I tell you now. Anyway, so they do that spot. So AAA is protecting him. They're protecting their top guy. And some people were like, I can't believe Laredo Kid went into business for himself. He was like Hulk Hogan out there. He's trying to screw over Omega. And I have heard some bad takes in my time.
Wrestling on the internet? You're kidding me.
Yes, that one. Oh, my God. But yeah, other than that, I think this was probably my favorite match of the year, other than that Young Bucks Hangman Omega tag match from Revolution. Just a tremendous match, which brings us to the main event, which was a death match, hair versus hair match between 20-year AAA veteran chessman and Pagano, who is a very charismatic, very limited pro wrestler. Going into this match, I was like, they have to follow that last match. Pagano's not any good. Oh, these poor guys, they're so screwed, man.
But...
And then they went and had the second best match in Mexico this year.
Very good.
Where somehow Pagano became a good wrestler for 23 minutes. Chessman had probably the performance of his life. They did stuff that I hope nobody ever tries ever again. Pagano went through 3 ladders. So Triple H was very happy when that happened. Chessman did a suicide. Now, this was by accident. He was supposed to do a suicide dive, miss Pagano, and he was supposed to go belly first into the chairs set up on the floor. He comes up short, and he goes head first into the chairs.
It was a pretty scary moment.
Oh, it was the referee, Tejano, who's the second out there, both rush over to Chessman. He was just fine, thankfully, but it was, oh my goodness. It was nuts.
It reminds me of there was a recent Raw spot where Jeff Hardy did a swanton through a table on Elias.
And he hit the back of his head on the ramp.
And you think right away, I know we talked about it, but it made me remember that this is the second Hardy boy to have a really dumb spot go bad in the last 6 months.
All I can tell you, Chessman's head strength is better than the Hardy's head strength. That's
very good.
All I can tell you. Luchadors they are durable. They are durable. That we talked about it before. A lot of these guys still go until their 60s.
Well, it's because they bump differently, right? They
roll into the bumps instead
of
flat backing and such. That definitely helps. So they do that. There was Chessman off the top rope, speared Pagano off the top rope and to the floor through a table. Insanity. Pagano powerbombed Chessman off the top rope to the floor through a table. Insanity.
Did any of these moves end the match?
No. Here's what ended the match.
And this is why it loses my attention, but keep going. No.
But thankfully, neither Chessman nor Pagano ever looked at their hands and wondered why they were doing this. So there is that. The match ended. They end up brawling up to a stage area. Chessman takes a guitar. Hugo Savinovich was on commentary for this. Did a great job. And Chessman, for no other reason other than it was great, he just turns away from Pagano, takes the guitar, and he breaks it over Hugo's head. And Hugo gigged. He bladed.
I don't know. Have we ever seen an announcer blade job before?
I think this might have been, I'm sure Lawler probably has. I would have to imagine. JR, I'm pretty sure has, now that I think of it too.
Well, he's done the flame job. I don't know if he's done the blade job.
JR has done many things that he would not want you to remember today. Anyway, so all this happens. They fight up onto the stage. There is a pickup truck below. Pagano picks Chessman up. He puts him in the air raid crash, and they drop some 10 feet off this stage and threw a table onto the back of this pickup truck. It was, and I can't believe I'm saying this, the safest spot in the entire match. and that was what ultimately won Pagano this unbelievably crazy match that I absolutely loved, and you would have absolutely wanted to die after watching it.
It definitely doesn't sound like my style, but you did tell me just before we went on the show that you watched this twice this week. You were such a big fan of the show, you wanted to watch it a second time.
I watched it live, obviously, and then my friend wanted to watch it and talk about it as it was going on, so I volunteered to do that, and I had no problem because it was a great, I mean, for me, for Lucha Libre fans, and pretty much most people I know, I haven't seen many people say bad things about it. Like, the worst thing I've seen is people talk about that Laredo Kid thing, which, whatever.
People are going to be stupid online. We know that.
Yeah, people being idiots online, pretty much. You know, most people loved this show.
Nice.
Like, a lot of the reporters who don't cover AAA other than this event loved this show. And I mean, the Omega match, if nothing else, that match was always going to get a ton of hype.
Of course.
And
especially right now.
Especially right now.
Yeah.
And it was so great. Omega, you know, it would have been very easy, regardless of how you feel about his style. You know, because obviously not everybody's going to like what everybody does.
No.
But it would have been very easy for Omega to have done the Jeff Jarrett, because Jarrett used to work for AAA for years, and he would be the champion, and he would come in, and obviously Jarrett athletically is nowhere near the worker Omega is. No. Not by a long shot, but he never would really give that great of an effort. We all know this. There will this was the New Japan guys going to Ring of Honor. They'd come in, they'd do their spots, and there really wouldn't be any heart or soul behind it. And, you know, it'd be fine, but it wouldn't be anything great. Omega came in there, and he worked it like it was an AEW show, like it was a big New Japan show. He worked it like it was the biggest match of his career, and he delivered as he does in those situations. And Laredo Kid proved why I've been saying for the past year that he's the best luchador alive. And hopefully somebody gives him some cash after this one, because he earned it.
Well, he's already got ties to, I think it's ROH. He's worked with
MLW.
MLW.
Yeah, he wrestled ACH, I believe, a couple weeks ago, in a good match from what I heard.
Very good. And then obviously there's ties with AEW as well. So I think any good showing here, especially with the way North American wrestling is growing the way it is, not that the way it's growing is different, but AEW is definitely growing their network. WWE is growing their worldwide network because of all these NXT expansions that they're doing. Whether the audience is growing or not, that's a different story, obviously. But there's going to be a lot of opportunities for anyone that stands out in any region. I just hope that whoever gets picked up, they end up choosing what works best for them. And definitely, according to what we know about a lot of these lucha guys, AEW seems to be the right home for them if they want to work into the North market.
Well, we pretty much go on that because WWE's track record with the luchadors is alarming, to put it.
I was going to say abysmal.
Well, that works too.
You know, I'm the WWE fan, and I get that. You've made some valid joke criticism about them. I don't really worry about Kalisto not getting booked well.
Well, no, hey. I'm not worried about that either.
Well, I get you. Grand Metalik is one person that I do feel deserves better than they've been booked. Almas, I think there's a huge future for him if he gets the right booking, and it's been off and on. I think it's definitely a taste of just not understanding how they connect, whereas AEW understands how these guys connect with their ring work and personas.
That's exactly it. It's not like the luchadors in WWE are untalented
No.
B hacks that they picked up that
Except for
AAA and
Kalisto.
CMLL and all of them didn't. Well, except for Kalisto, yes. We all agree. We wish he could go away and never return.
If
him
there
and
is a
Dava could
Kalisto
hold
fan
the
out
Indies
there,
together.
please, if there is a Kalisto fan out there, let us know. Tell us how terrible we are. We're anticipating not hearing from anyone.
Exactly. I expect nothing from that. But I mean, you know, Phantasma or Santos Escobar now, he's great. Grand Metalik, I mean, he certainly deserves more than getting pummeled by Jackson Riker, of all people.
Is that what happened on Main Event or something?
No, I believe that happened on Raw.
Oh, yeah, there was the 24/7 stuff. Yeah, I barely paid attention to that.
Yeah, well,
I think when it comes to the the luchadors in WWE, they get, obviously, because of the English language being the primary direction for WWE, it makes it tough if they don't speak English very well. The problem is that they connect with their moves, and as we're going to talk about later on, the moves are not that important with WWE unless they work in a very limited style. So these lucha guys, they have to reduce what they do. It might be better long term safety wise, and that's arguable because they bump differently in general.
Yeah.
Where I was going with that though is, out of all these people, a lot of them just took whatever maybe was the highest paycheck. But Phantasma is an exception, where he's wanted to be in WWE for a while. So this sounds like that's the right role for him. I could understand anyone else, like a Grand Metalik, a Lince Dorado, deciding that maybe I wish AEW was around back when the Cruiserweight Classic started up.
I think a lot of those guys, you know, they don't get, I mean, even with CMLL and AAA being the biggest promotions in Mexico, they don't pay nearly as well as AEW and especially WWE here.
Right.
So when you get that WWE offer, and you get that much money, and a lot of these guys have families and such. Mexico is very family oriented. You know, they want to provide the best for their kids and all that. So you can't blame them for doing that. And you know, and all of these talents, we've talked about this before. They all think, whether they're luchadors, Japanese wrestlers, American indie guys, you know, female wrestlers from Europe, what have you. They all think, I'm different than those other people. I'm going to show them that I'm so good they can't mess me up. And then they all inevitably learn, or not all, most inevitably learn the same lesson. Nope, you're not that different. And then that's when you get guys like Moxley eventually going off on their own.
Absolutely.
And such, and sooner or later, you know, Metalik and Lince Dorado, you know, either they'll leave on their own or they'll get released when Vince finds a guy he feels is better than them in that position, and you know, the cycle repeats.
Absolutely. Honestly, very much aside, but an interesting thing I just thought of. Imagine if AEW existed in 2006 when CM Punk was struggling in the ECW brand. How quickly do you think he would have moved over and become a star in AEW?
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, pretty quickly. He would have still been motivated and in love with the business then. So, yeah, pretty quickly.
You know, you think about how there was a discussion I was having recently, how CM Punk really changed the atmosphere for WWE. He didn't get the breaks that we feel or at least you and I feel that he deserved. But at the same time, because he eventually broke through a lot of the glass ceilings, I think that's why you see WWE hiring people like Bryan Danielson, or Daniel Bryan as we now know him, and Seth Rollins.
He's the big reason behind that. No
Absolutely.
doubt.
So I don't want to say let's hope, because it feels like you're always hoping for something good at a WWE and it's never ever delivered. But there's a lot of hope in that in the future, a lot of the people that are not getting their breaks today, it'll eventually turn around where WWE as a corporation will understand maybe there's some value to letting these people be what they are. So whatever choices people make, let's hope that you don't regret them. It sounds like Nakamura, for example, he's happy with WWE ending his career there. Moving to the States seems to make him happy.
He is happy to be surfing and to not be getting forearms from Tomohiro Ishii every few weeks.
Exactly. There's pros and cons from every side of things. There's no doubt that his spotlight was brighter in New Japan, but he's got a more relaxed schedule and maybe a less demanding physical need in the ring.
Yeah, the only downside really is, and I mean, I don't know how Nakamura, if he really cares all that much about how people are going to view his legacy and such, but the only downside of it is if you do go there and then you have the run Nakamura had, which, I mean, I know he won the Royal Rumble. I know he's had title matches.
But he's not the star.
No, it's not been a very good run overall. I would say
it's been a good run, but it hasn't been a great run. Like, he was a legit main event Hall of Famer in New Japan. Yeah. He's not been a legit Hall of Fame main eventer in.
Yeah, and I always think back to, because we were talking about Lucha here, to Caristico, who was, before he came to WWE, a legitimate Hall of Famer. He was a Hall of Fame draw. He was a Hall of Fame worker in CMLL. He had good runs in Japan too, and such. He was a guy people were legit saying he's a Hall of Famer right now. Can't miss with him. And then he went to WWE, and nobody is saying that anymore.
Yeah.
And now granted, his run was worse than Nakamura's
for sure.
But still, that's the sort of thing. If you're somebody that cares about that, and then you go to WWE and you have a nice, respectable run, but it's not anything anybody's going to really remember, that will hurt you. But again, I don't know if that bothers Nakamura that much.
Anytime someone discusses, I know you and I discuss this often, where, where should they go, whether it's AEW or WWE, and I understand the pros and cons from each side, but it doesn't matter what you and I think are the pros and cons. It matters what that person thinks are the pros and cons.
Right, yeah.
So what they value might be, different. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, like, I saw what Johnny Mundo did on Raw last night, Johnny McIntyre, Johnny Braveheart or whatever that thing was. And a lot of people were, all upset about that. And I did make the point. I was like, can you believe Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma are on the same company? And one of them is a joke and the other is dressing up like Braveheart right now. And people got furious. I was like, I can't believe they did that. And I then did have to point out, I mean, look, Ricochet, it's stupid. Mundo is 40. He did everything he could possibly do elsewhere, and he wanted to take a nice payday at the end of his career. I can't be mad at him for that.
And I don't think you could be mad at Ricochet for doing what he's doing.
No.
If that's what makes them happy, all power to them.
Well, I mean, it's hard for me to buy that Ricochet is entirely happy, but I believe he was at the time he signed the deal. So, yes, people need... They need to make their own decisions, and they need to learn the lessons in their own way.
Absolutely.
And that always is going to happen one way or the other. So,
well, we were just quickly talking about the Cruiserweight Classic. Another name that was involved in that and is relevant to what we were just talking about with Triple Mania in a sideways way. Rich Swann is the Impact champion right now.
That was a great segue. What a segue by you right there.
I told you, I've worked in radio. I know what I'm doing. So Rich Swann, major star in WWE's Cruiserweight division at the time when it actually mattered, sort of, almost. And then he moved to Impact. There was a lot of controversy at the time, but it looks like it's been, I don't want to say erased, but it's in the past, thankfully.
Right.
He's really rebuilt himself in 2020. He's at the top of the Impact roster, and he's on a collision course with Kenny Omega, who just won his match for the Mega Championship at Triple Mania. So it looks like they're going to be heading off on Impact, because Omega is on Impact again tonight.
Yes.
What do you think is the future for Impact, for Rich Swann, and Kenny Omega in particular?
Well, I think Hard to Kill, January 16th, is going to be Omega versus Rich Swann. I think that was apparent last week. They did the big segment last week where Omega made his Impact debut, and Impact did its highest numbers in a long, long time.
Yep.
They, and it was made pretty clear that because they did that thing where Swann couldn't get into the parking lot and such, that they were going with Omega and Swann at some point. And now Omega appeared Saturday night at the Final Resolution. He had the brief thing with Carl Anderson to tease that thing. And now he's going to be on tonight again. And I can't see where else it could be going. They established last week the right decision, because they listened to this show, that Kenny should be going after all these titles. So that's the only match that makes sense. And one buddy of mine was like, I'm surprised they didn't put the title on Chris Bay and have Omega take it off Chris Bay. And I thought that guy was out of his mind right there. I was like, no, if you're going to do this, it should be a guy like Swan who's established and can take the L in this situation. And I think that's where we're going. I think he's going to be winning a lot of titles. Now, I'm not sure what other ones he could be winning outside of the NWA title once you get past the Impact one, because everything is still so closed down. But I mean, that's very clearly the direction. That's why he retained on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he won the AEW title. And that's why he's suddenly appearing on Impact. He's going to win that belt, and him and Callis are going to become like this modern day Ric Flair. Here's a name for you, Nick Bockwinkel, who travels everywhere and defends these titles and retains them until it's time for the next guy in either promotion to knock him off.
That's something from the territory eras that I wish I was a part of. Like, territory eras ended in the mid 80s. I was 4 years old when WrestleMania started, for example. So there's no way to experience that. But the idea of having this one single top of the card champion that goes around everywhere faces the local champion, it's such an amazing concept that really you don't see, especially with WWE just being this conglomerate. They have champions for everything, that everyone's supposed to be equal. We know darn well that there's only one title that matters, but WWE will never say that.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing for anyone who chooses an alternative wrestling option to see a Kenny Omega. And of all people, he might not be my favorite, but I'm hard pressed to find a better option who could travel to Impact, AAA.
Cody could probably pull it off.
I could see Cody pulling it off. I was about to say with AEW, Moxley was an amazing champion, but I can't see Moxley doing that with AAA as well. I'm not saying he wouldn't do it. He'd be good. He'd definitely be better than Jarrett, for example. But I don't see that being the persona of the person who is traveling, collecting titles like an Ultimo Dragon or whatever the case might be.
Oh, yeah, that comparison has been made a lot. Yeah,
definitely. So when it comes to Omega doing this, I didn't like that promo segment, but I loved the Rich Swann part. I found that was less is more. Is usually what I really look forward to in terms of wrestling. They created intrigue with him being, pushed aside for Omega more than whatever Omega said in a very bad promo.
Yeah. So a lot of people would say the opposite of you. Most people thought that made Swann look weak, and almost everybody I know loved that. I thought Callis was just tremendous.
Callis is always going to be tremendous when a microphone's in front of him.
And I thought Omega was really good too. I mean, again, it's all taste here, so we can quibble on that. Doesn't really matter. I mean, I do definitely think though that this has rejuvenated Omega. Not that he was floundering before, but they had very clearly made, the effort to have him sit on the sidelines a little bit for the first year, get Moxley going, get some of the younger guys like MJF going, get the Hangman back on track after his slow start. And then when it was time, go back to Moxley, Omega, and then turn Kenny into this guy everybody always wanted him to be. And it worked because now he's the hottest he's been in years since he won the IWGP title.
Absolutely.
So yeah, now all of a sudden they've got a bona fide star, and he is drawing. He drew huge for Impact. I can tell you now, Triple Mania, before they took it off YouTube, between it and Facebook, a combined 1.8 million views.
Nice.
Way higher than in recent years. And I mean, all due respect to Chessman and Pagano, I don't think it was because of that.
There's so much buzz on Kenny Omega right now with this story, and I think it's going to do wonders for all involved. Look, as an Impact fan, I'm really happy about it, even if I'm not the biggest Kenny Omega or AEW fan. It's creating intrigue for a promotion I do enjoy, and in the end, it's going to deliver good to great matches. If Kenny Omega's involved, again, usually not my style, but I'm still never going to say that was horrible. It's more about, okay, it wasn't fully for me, but I can understand why someone like you would prefer it. And it was fine. And coming back to that promo, Callous with a microphone. There's very few that are better. Maybe Paul Heyman, maybe.
Yeah.
And even then, Paul Heyman's almost a bit of a one-trick pony right now. Don Callis is kind of taking a new approach for him because he's kind of
have to be careful though. Don will have to be careful not to fall into the same trap of repeating himself like Paul has.
For sure. But he's been mostly a baby face on Impact. Not completely, obviously. He's still a heel commentator, but he hasn't been a full like Jesse Ventura, nobody baby face does anything good kind of commentator. He usually puts over everyone but sides with the heels. Now he's 100% a heel, and he's doing this in 2, maybe 3 promotions if he does get tied into AAA at any point.
Yeah.
So he's very good. I think my issue with the Omega thing is it reminded me too much of 80s wrestling, which I know was weird because that's usually what I prefer.
Yeah.
But when it comes to promos, it was almost like he was trying to be a wrestler more than just being a wrestler. As I watch a lot of old WWF stuff from the 88, I realize how much, like, this is going to be blasphemy to a lot of people. Macho Man was not a very good promo.
Oh no!
As a babyface, he was not very good. He inserted into every third word. It was just.
Are you trying to tell me such gems such as Elizabeth said go to the left? I went right here. Was not great work?
No,
man,
it was not. I think his run as WWF champion, I don't want to say was a failure, but it was a misstep. He was a great heel. As a promo and as a heel, he was amazing. Turning him babyface, I could see why they did it, but he was not a good promo, and it was kind of a lame duck championship run in the end.
Right.
Sorry. Let's go back to Omega, though. That's what I felt. It was just he was trying too hard to be a persona rather than just being himself. When Jon Moxley gives a promo, I understand Jonathan Good's not the one actually talking to me.
Yeah.
But Jon Moxley is very real. When Roman Reigns is giving his head of the table promos, I understand he's not actually winning money for everyone in the family.
Right.
It sounds like that's really Roman Reigns giving that promo.
If he is, he better be sending Sean Maluda some stuff there. Poor guy needs it. He keeps losing on Dark.
I find Drew McIntyre, WWE again, he gives promos that you don't think he's playing a persona. The Fiend is a different story, obviously.
Yeah.
But Omega is a very real person who was trying too hard to be a persona. And I think that's the disconnect I had.
But I think that's the point here, because this Omega is supposed to be a fake version of what the face Kenny Omega persona is supposed to be, which is more towards him. Kenny is, by all accounts, one person I know who knows him says he's the nicest guy in wrestling and such. So
I can see that.
Yeah. So this is him playing a fake, just a completely fake version of that wrestling persona, completely over the top, completely full of himself, hypocritical to the highest extent, which we already know because he had that gentleman's agreement with Moxley and he's the one who broke it.
Right.
He came up with it and then he broke it. That's what really solidified the turn, I thought, more than anything else. So that's what he's going for here. So to me, that's why it worked and such. I can understand your point of view. It definitely isn't. It's not real in a sense. It's not the real persona with the volume turned up to 10. It's a fake version of the real persona turned up to 10.
It's a tough discussion to have because rewinding back, just sticking with Impact, Eric Young, for example, I don't think he's a raving lunatic when the cameras are off.
No.
But he makes me believe he's real when the cameras are on.
Right.
Omega just didn't give me that same impression.
Right.
He seemed like an actor playing a role rather than just, wow, this is what the role is.
Yeah, that's fine. Again, we're not going to agree on everything. That's fine. I can see
you and I rarely do.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, Omega has always been, as a promo, a guy who a lot of people either they really like him as a promo or they don't. So he's always been polarizing. I don't foresee that really changing.
I liked I know I don't catch AEW as much as you do, but his baby face, especially in the tag team run, I really liked a lot of the promos he was doing to build up that chemistry with Hangman. And I think that's probably because he was being the real nicest guy in wrestling.
Yeah, that was when he was being the more honest version of himself and such there. So yeah. And this one is supposed to be completely as far away from that as possible. It's supposed to be more Ric Flair, Nick Bockwinkel.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, with that in mind,
but I mean, go ahead.
I was going to say he's on
You want me
tonight. It looks like there's a bit of a delay in there, but we'll fix that up. So it looks like he's going to be on Impact tonight. He's going to be on Dynamite tomorrow because he's not defending the title, but he's taking on Joey Janela. Is it a no holds barred or no DQ? What's the official stipulation?
No DQ match. So this is similar to the Bucks Hybrid 2 thing, although a little bit differently because Joey was supposed to face Omega in the qualifier tournament.
Right.
They had to take Joey off. We cannot repeat that story on air, but you can find it easily. It's great why Joey could not compete that night. So now they're going back with it now. And if Joey is able to beat Kenny, Kenny will give him a title shot.
Okay.
I'm going to guess that like poor Angelico and Jack Evans, Joey will not succeed in this endeavor, but he will look great in trying to succeed.
I do appreciate how AEW builds up the full card, but when you look at the fact that Kenny Omega is the main star in the non-WWE wrestling world right now, I really don't think it's a smart idea to make it look like Joey Janela, of all people, is a contender to his title. It seems like way too much of a difference on the position of the card. So I have to hope Omega wins this one and wins it pretty decisively.
The only way he's not winning is if Moxley or somebody screws him over. That's pretty much it. I don't think he's losing this one, though. I think Janela is there because Janela and Kenny have been great together before, and they know that this is going to be a great match again. So it's just something you could put in the main event. Kenny can have a great match and win, keep his momentum, and then Moxley or whoever the next challenger is comes out afterwards, and you set up that program right there. I think that's pretty much why that exists. And that's sound booking right there. Mm-hmm. I do agree if Janela beats him clean, not only will I die of shock, I will just be like, I don't know about that one. But
what else is going on Dynamite tomorrow night?
So, in addition to that, we have Angelico versus Cody Rhodes. Obviously, an easy Angelico victory there. What else do we have an absolutely ridiculous 14-man tag match with the Inner Circle. Let me see if I remember everybody here. Brandon Cutler, the Best Friends, Brian Pillman Jr., Griff Garrison, and Top Flight.
Okay.
It could be good. I am a little dubious to it because there's too many people, but we'll find out. So we got those 3 matches there. And there's 3 more on the card, and I can't remember 2 of them. I do remember Ivelisse and Diamante are facing Big Swole and Serena Deeb. So obviously, I am a very happy man about that match. So
especially, 3 out of 4, definitely.
I like Swole. So technically 4 out of 4. But mostly, if Swole and Diamante decide to brawl to the back and Ivelisse and Serena just decide to throw kicks at each other, I'll be fine with that, quite honestly. I'll be very good.
That sounds like the best booking I could picture.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Tony Khan and I are not on speaking terms at the moment, so that will not be happening. Let me see if I can remember these other 2. Oh, so we also have SCU versus The Acclaimed, which is Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, really good young team. And yeah, I can't remember the last one to save my life.
Well, thankfully, AEW, they book their shows well in advance. It's something you and I have talked about really well. They create, whether these matches are huge deals or maybe slightly forgettable, not making fun of that, but when they have so much going on, like this Omega thing, like the 7-on-7 match, which was making headlines, even though I don't follow AEW the way you do, I did know about that match. They still create enough of an interest to the show. Whereas if you were to ask me, the WWE NXT fan, what was on tomorrow night's show, I'd be drawing a blank because I'm not quite sure. I know they announced some women's match. Who knows?
I believe I actually know more than you here. So I believe in
a lot of ways you do.
Rhea Ripley versus Toni Storm. And I seem to recall hearing something about Kyle O'Reilly and Pete Dunne. The winner faces Finn Balor at what's it called? At the New Year's Evil, which right. I mean, I guess the name department took the day off that day or something like that.
As a horror movie slasher fan, I think it's a good name because that was a good slasher from 1981, I think.
Well, that's your opinion and you're entitled to it.
Oh, yeah, trust me, I know him. All my friends are in this room that agree with me on that one. When it comes to, you just mentioned the New Year's Evil, so the NXT's been booking this show in advance. They do that once in a while really well. And then AEW, they've done something pretty special as well, where they're building up 3 AEW special shows over the next 3 weeks. I think it was New Year's Bash was the name.
New Year's Bash is next week.
Okay.
That one's going to be later. It's going to be after the NBA because the NBA is coming back. So that one will be late.
Okay.
And then I don't remember what the other 2 shows are called.
I think it was New Year's Bash 2 or like night 1 and night 2.
Oh, no. Oh, okay. Yeah, no. Next week is the Christmas thing, and it's not New Year. The New Year's Bash is the 2-show one. All right. Yeah, thank you. Wow, I should know that. I've disappointed dozens of people today. Anyway.
Well, we know that Snoop Dogg is going to be on the last of those 3 shows. Oh, boy,
yes. People were like, oh, man, how could he do that to The Undertaker, man?
You got to remember, Pete fans, that they're paid to be here. And whoever's paying them most, they're going to give them a shot. There's as much as he's been on WWE, it's not like he's contracted by WWE to be on the show and he's the only wrestling show he's allowed to be on. It's pretty silly. And he can be back on Raw.
Yeah, he's doing the show with Cody, the reality show with Cody, too. And I would bet you Snoop probably watches everything and enjoys everything. So good for you, Snoop.
Complete weirdo aside, our fiance, soon-to-be wife, and I, we watch a lot of Impractical Jokers, and they've been putting on a show called Dinner Party over this year. We haven't watched any of them until this week, and then in the middle of one of the shows that I think they filmed in maybe May or June, one of the characters, Sal, he's wearing an Exalted One t-shirt. So when it comes to celebrities being wrestling fans, it's not about and I've seen them wear like Heart Foundation shirts and Ric Flair shirts on the actual show a few times.
Yeah.
They just like wrestling. So it doesn't matter, it's not about being WWE or AEW only. They can like it, just like you and I. We can like different promotions. And if we were hired to do a podcast related to any of these shows, we'd say yes to any of them because we like all of them.
Yeah. I mean, like, the unfortunate thing here, like, I don't want to pick on WWE here, and that's not what we're trying to do.
No, you never do that.
Well, I do that occasionally, but that's not what I'm trying to do right here.
Okay.
The issue is, like, if Snoop Dogg, and obviously we've just seen it, Snoop Dogg was on WWE. He was involved with them. That didn't stop AEW from wanting to bring him in. They had no problem with that. But if it's the other way around, WWE does generally have an issue with that. And I just think that's so counterproductive there.
They've shown some leniency recently. Like Bret Hart, he was obviously at the AEW Championship inaugural match.
Yeah.
And then he was on WWE TV within months after that. Now, I understand Bret Hart's got a career with WWE, so it might be a different story.
They're not going to say no to Bret.
Yeah, exactly. So I get that. But at the same time, I think they've been lenient in general over the years. They might not want anyone currently contracted. Oh, here's another great example. Who was at the Hardy compound and helping Hardy?
Shane.
Exactly. And he was just brought back as an agent for WWE within the last couple of weeks. They don't really mind the way that the fans seem to. And I think it's over the years, Vince has relented on certain things and been a complete stubborn idiot on other ones.
It can be because remember last year, Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes were on the first Dynamite. I was in the same building as them. I was at that show live too.
Snoochie Boochies.
Snoochie Boochies. And they were going to do something with WWE, and then WWE, Smith came out and said they didn't want anything to do with us after that. So we have examples like with Gregory Helms, the Hurricane. He gets brought back even though he worked with AEW, but then Kevin Smith does, and they don't want to bring him in. It's a bizarre inconsistency.
Well, I think the one difference on that one is I think they wanted to do something in the same week. And
No.
I could understand. I don't agree with this, by the way. Don't ever say I side with this. But we've
Right.
seen celebrities on different talk shows. Back
Oh,
when I was
yeah.
watching them, he'd be on Conan one night, Letterman the next. Leno shows you how old I am.
Yeah.
This happens. You could do that in wrestling too, but I could also understand someone saying, "Well, if you were on Leno, I don't want you on my Letterman show until 2 weeks from now." And
Yeah, that's definitely Vince's ideology
yeah.
right
So
there.
I have a feeling that if Jay and Silent Bob want to book something 3-4 months from now, they wouldn't have the same pushback that they did 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Well, I
or a
would
month ago.
certainly hope not. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. TLC time.
Well, look, again, WWE guy here. I am looking forward to watching the show, but only because WWE on pay-per-view, they tend to deliver more often than not. Even as you are not a huge WWE fan, you've always, other than maybe Hell in a Cell last year, I think you can understand that most of the reviews for most pay-per-views are good. Some are better than others, but on average, they're good.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what this show is going to end up being like, but I think we're really seeing the headache that WWE has created for themselves with these forced gimmick pay-per-views. I would have told you maybe 5 years ago that TLC is the best one out of them all because there's a lot of flexibility. You can have a TLC match for the number one top of the card match, and then you can have a ladders match, you can have a tables match, you can have a chairs match for all the other ones. Instead, what they did this year, they have two brand new feuds. Well, maybe not brand new when it comes to Owens and Reigns, but they're not current feuds. They're just brand new for 2020 feuds with the TLC gimmick booked into it. Drew and AJ did a promo on Raw last night where they admitted they've never faced each other ever in any promotion. And their first match is going to be on a TLC pay-per-view with the TLC Force gimmick.
Yes.
I really go ahead.
Yeah, and now also it's not even just going to be a straight one-on-one. It's going to be involving the Miz, and Morrison, and
Sheamus.
Is it Omos? Is it Edward James Omos? Who is it here?
From the agility and ability I saw out of him yesterday, I might say he's Giant Gonzalez. He is not the most.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, dexterity is not in his future, in my opinion. But look, it might have just been one segment.
Giant Gonzalez, man. That man, he had a match with The Undertaker that managed to be both bad and not even remotely funny at all. What a disgrace, man.
That, it's tough because WWE or Undertaker's had this legendary career, as we've been told over the last year by WWE 84 times a week.
Yeah.
And he really has, but I don't think his career really meant anything until the Mankind feud in 96. I've had this argument several times, but the first 5 or 6 years, it's not that he didn't do anything that mattered, but he never delivered the match quality that we now know and associate the Undertaker with, because he was in these silly gimmick matches like with Giant Gonzalez.
Yeah, his career was not great until about 5 years in or so.
Yeah, exactly. So he didn't show a lot of ability. He got into this weird pushing segment with Sheamus, and he looked hesitant to get involved, which I noticed with Giant Gonzalez with the really bad forearms to the back. It looked really bad. And I hope that was just a single bad segment and he was just nervous. Maybe he wasn't supposed to be that close, but he got caught in camera and feels like he had to do something, but it did not look good.
Right.
So yeah, you're absolutely correct. There's a lot of outside, well, you were talking about seconds in the Triple Mania stuff. There's seconds, thirds, and fourths apparently for AJ because of Miz, Morrison, and Omos.
I'm sure Sheamus will be involved too.
Sheamus has been involved. Keith Lee had a match on Raw against Miz and Morrison, so he might be a third on the side of Drew McIntyre.
He's got to learn a few things first before.
There was that news. I didn't read into it too much, but Vince is sending a few people back to the Performance Center to get into, I don't know if it was ring shape the way they used to do with Big Show going back to OVW, or or it might just be you guys put on good NXT matches, but now you're in WWE. You have to work the big man style, Vince the way Vince says it should be.
I think that's it.
Yeah, that's what I've read as well.
I'll tell you what, if he's been taking those lessons, I saw that spot last night where he went to hit the pounce on Morrison.
You're talking about Keith Lee, yeah?
Yeah, and I mean, granted, some of it was on Morrison. He jumped like 5 seconds way too early, but if that's part of the lessons he's learning, he needs to tell Adam Pearce and Drew Gulak, you got to start teaching me something different, man, because that ain't working.
It's tough because I can understand working the big man style. It is a classic style, and I think it'll be better for his health over time. You know, doing all the athletic stuff takes a toll, especially when you're carrying 350 pounds to do everything.
Oh yeah, it's much harder on the legs. Especially.
Absolutely. I think they should go more along the lines of what they sort of did with Brock Lesnar back in 2002, 2003. Obviously, he had that bad WrestleMania shooting star press spot, but it was more along the lines of he could work the big man style, and then for a huge moment, he can break out what else he can do. Right. I think that's what Big Show was doing when he was the Giant in WCW. We saw him do a drop kick a couple of times, and it was mind-blowing, but if he did a drop kick every match, it wouldn't be the same.
Right.
So I think that's more along what they're trying to teach him. The sad part about that, go ahead.
I think you're about to say what I was going to say. The problem I would argue is I think he already knows how to do that style well.
Probably.
Yeah, I think if anybody with his athleticism and such would already know how to be the prototypical WWE big man and do it at a high level, it would be Keith Lee. You know, it certainly would be compared to some of these other people that they have on the roster that aren't like, I mean, Nia Jax is an easy target, but how the hell is she not someone who requires the extra training? How is Lars Sullivan? Is he even still there?
I'm not even sure. He did those backstage interviews and then disappeared since I think October.
Yeah, might have a few things on a few forums he has to take care of first or something like that. You know, like, I mean, good, you know, friggin' A, our boy Mojo has nothing to do. Send him down there, get him some time in. He's rusty.
I believe that it would be good for everyone to get as much practice in right now, because right now you got to consider every wrestler they take a cut in action, and I think there's a benefit to that. You know, it's probably better long term for their careers. But the con to this possibility is they get sort of like a ring rust if they're only working once a week. And as we've seen with AEW and WWE, not everyone works every week, you know, so they could end up working once a month in the end if they're doing backstage segments 3 weeks in a row or whatever. I think it makes it tough to stay in, I don't want to say ring shape, because it's not really the shape that we're worried about here. It's more about having that routine and being able to go. It's going to be tough for all these companies and the wrestlers to manage.
Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, that's why, we are definitely taking steps towards getting back to normal now. The vaccines are getting out and everything. I saw the story about in Canada, how they're being released even wider than they are here in the States right now.
Just an aside, I work for a company that involves the COVID testing. We have COVID clinics with the company I work for, so I'll probably be one of the first people to tell you what the vaccine is going to be like. Congratulations.
That'll be a breaking news story on this show.
I don't think I'll be the first. In fact, the first was done this week, but I'm going to look into it. I'm not going to be first up in line, but I won't be waiting. I'm not one of
it'll be a great story to talk about after Mojo's return match in a few weeks, and I will follow that.
Hopefully I don't develop the same vein lightning marks that he had makeup on his face for a while.
Stay away from all mirrors. Anyway, all right, what else is on TLC?
Well, one thing I want to go back to about the big men thing is I don't want Vince to go up to Triple H and say, you got to stop letting Dijak and Keith Lee work the matches they did, because I need you to work them into the big match that WWE needs them to be. Because I do think that NXT pushed their limits on the athleticism for the big men. They had that match 4 or 5 times, and by the 5th one, it just wasn't as interesting.
No.
But at the same time, you don't want to tell them never do any of that stuff, which is what I feel Vince might have an influence in saying.
Well, I mean, in fairness, T-Bar is never allowed to do that stuff anyway, so he'd worry there.
Anyways, rest of TLC, you're absolutely correct. So we had those 2 title matches with the TLC gimmick. We have The Fiend taking on Orton. No gimmick to that one as far as I recall, which is a little bizarre.
Well, don't worry. They'll find a way to... Oh, God. That match, hopefully, if I were them, I would put it on to start, and then I would just move on immediately after.
They had a cinematic type segment on Raw, and if they were to book it in a cinematic match, not that I'm a fan of those matches, I think that might be the way to go.
Uh-huh.
I understand. Fiend bores me when I'm watching Raw as well, which
I'm
is too
getting
bad.
tired.
It's okay. We're gonna sign off pretty soon. When it comes to horror stuff, I usually love it, but they're just not getting it right now, and it's
No.
been hit and miss since they started the Firefly Funhouse. It was mostly hit at first, and then it became hit or miss. I'm noticing more misses these days.
Mm.
So this match, I'm sure it'll be fine. I understand your concept of just let's move past it, but I have a feeling because I sense one of these two might end up being a pretty big part of WrestleMania, depending on returns of Edge or where Drew McIntyre might be as champion and needing a challenger. Uh, that it's not going to be something they're just going to wave by. They're going to have to put some attention to it, so whoever does move on to a bigger show afterwards has the right spotlight.
Right.
What else is on there? You talked about Nia Jax. She's going to be partnering with Shayna Baszler. They are the WWE Women's
Yep.
Tag Team Champions. They were booked to defend against Asuka and Lana in a match that no one was asking for. The Lana push, someone was saying recently that with all the pumped in crowd noise that WWE can push their own narrative on who gets booed and cheered. And I was thinking, well, they're pretty much doing what the fans would be doing in general. Lana's the exception. She would be booed to hell despite the fact that they want her to be a babyface right now.
We would be hearing Miro.
Yeah.
Miro. That
Very
would
good
be
point.
what we would be
AEW
hearing.
chants, maybe some Kipper chants if you were in the crowd.
Oh my good. If she were getting Kipper chants, Vince would have to shut down at that point. Oh my God. I can't believe you even brought that up. Stop for me, but I can't believe you brought that up.
Well, despite the fact that Lana's been a big focus of Raw for the last 2 or 3 weeks, especially with Nia Jax, she's now been removed from the match, which probably is the smart move in the end. They didn't hint on who the replacement was going to be, so that leads me to believe it's someone way out of left field. And yes, exactly. That's where I'm thinking it might be going, because who took out Charlotte Flair 3 or 4 months ago was, in fact, Nia Jax.
Well, that at least connects there. But it is preposterous how they built this, albeit pretty terrible story around Lana getting put through more tables than Mae Young every week. And
I don't think it was a terrible story. I think it was just terrible because they made it to be Lana of all people. Had they done this to Naomi, I don't think it would have been terrible, because I think the fans have a connection with Naomi where they would actually have some sympathy for her.
You could be right, knowing how some of Naomi's fan base reacts. I think you probably would not be correct there. I think that would have been received. If they had not done it every week, maybe not. But if she went through a table every
9 weeks in a row,
I think that would have been received pretty badly.
Oh, it would have been received badly by the fans, but I think the story would have worked better.
Well, it might have, yeah.
Yeah. But Lana,
Naomi also can work too, so that's a big difference. Naomi, we at least know there's something that could pay off in a good way. Lana, God bless her, she tries, but it just hasn't clicked there. And I mean, goodness, they've just humiliated her so much. And you would have thought here that at least now, even if the story has been mostly miss, at least now at this pay-per-view, now she puts Nia through the table. Nope.
No. Unless that happens soon, but no, it doesn't seem to be the direction they're doing at TLC of all shows to put someone through a table. No, it's not happening there. Very good point.
They'll interfere and help Charlotte win or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Elsewhere in the women's division, but on the blue brand, we're going to see Sasha Banks defend her championship against Carmella, another person who has a very Lana-esque type reputation where she's not the best worker. A little better, in my opinion.
Definitely better. Yeah.
Definitely better, but at the same time, after seeing months of great work with Sasha, working with Asuka between both brands, and Bayley, Carmella's definitely a step down.
Yeah.
And they had a good segment on SmackDown to build up interest because they gave away the title match, but it ended in a DQ. And
they like doing that with Sasha matches.
I think it worked best because on the same show they did that also with Big E and Sami Zayn, where it ended in a countout. And I think that old school '80s approach, where you have the DQ ending to build up interest in the rematch, usually falls flat. It definitely did with the Big E Sami Zayn one. I think it worked with the Sasha Carmella one, but it's still Carmella, so it's not that great.
Yeah.
I have a feeling when I look
SmackDown,
at the card, that would probably be a good opener for the show.
SmackDown has, it wasn't that long ago, and it still is the better show
Of the
between
two, sure.
a lot, because Roman Reigns is, just he if imagine if him and Omega were to meet right now. Oh my goodness, that would be
Not a bad idea, but if I were to choose anyone from AEW to take on Roman, there's a former AEW champion that I think would be a lot better.
Mox, yes. But I mean, right now with Kenny going after all the titles and Roman's the head of the table, you got to do that.
Fair point. Very fair point.
Plus, then we can compare Roman's great hair to Kenny's not so great hair. That'd be great stuff too. Yeah, I mean, he's holding that ship together now, because once the Bayley Sasha thing ended, you took that away and there wasn't anything great to replace it. The Mysterio thing just somehow got even worse than it already was.
I wouldn't say it got worse. They had to transfer their attention, though. They're making Buddy Murphy a star, but now he's feuding with Corbin of all people, and
always a polarizing person to put something.
Definitely.
So, and now once you took those big things away, it's now down to Roman, and 3 things with a 2-hour show you can get away with. The show will mostly be great. One great thing on a 2-hour show with so-so to bad stuff, it's still passable, but the creeks start to show more there. But at least with Roman, because we're going to talk about his match now, that's a match I could get excited about for this show.
Well, just one quick thing, going back to those 3 pieces of SmackDown, they had Bayley and Sasha, and they were huge as one component. Now that they're trying to do is separate them and say, well, let's do this Sasha Carmella thing as well as Bianca and Bayley thing.
Yeah.
And they're both okay, but they definitely don't reach the peaks that we saw from the Bayley Sasha. That said, though, I love the idea of Bianca and Bayley. I wish that was on the pay-per-view.
I do think that eventually, when you get Bianca past Bayley and you get Bianca to Sasha, which I presume, as most intelligent people would, that's where they're going.
Yeah, that's going to be a WrestleMania match.
That will help pick things up right there.
For sure. But yes, Roman and
Kevin Owens.
They're going to be in another TLC match. They're creating a good feud between the two, but it still doesn't fit the TLC booking. The idea of having this blood feud that ends, 80s thinking the cage match was the feud ender. Today it's 2020, so it's the first match of the feud is a TLC. It's terrible.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem with this show. It's just too much of the gimmick, the same gimmick. And also,
we said the same thing, or I said the same thing about War Games just a couple weeks ago with NXT. It's when you're forcing these feuds into this scheduled gimmick, it's never going to feel 100% authentic. One idea I had years ago, and I still stick to that today, is they should name the pay-per-view something like Backlash. Just name it a random pay-per-view. Make that every, December if you wish. And then if the TLC works, call the pay-per-view Backlash TLC. Very similar to what they did with the Survivor Series Best of the Best, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, that would be the smart way to go. And hey, you brought up War Games. What hurt that show? I mean, not a bad show, but it was hurt by the fact that it had
too much.
2 War Games matches. We didn't really need either of them, quite honestly.
True.
We certainly didn't need 2. We don't need 2 TLC matches here. That's really the biggest problem. I'm sure, as we've said, it'll be a fine show. I don't think it'll be a terrible show unless Orton and Bray is just, if they find a way to top themselves from a few years ago, maybe then. But barring that, I think the wrestling will be good enough. We'll have some good matches. It won't be a bad show. Do I think it will excite anybody really going forward? Probably not, but it won't be anything that turns anybody off to a vast extent either.
Well, it's weird you say that, because out of all the matches that have built up a feud that needs a feud ender, Not that either guy is meant for a TLC match, but Orton and Fiend in the TLC gimmick would probably be the best option out of them all. I don't know if it's a good idea overall, but if I'm looking at this card, forgetting that any of them are already booked for TLC, I'd say that's probably the one that should main event because at least it's got a history to build up to deserving a TLC gimmick.
It's got meat to the bone.
Yeah. The only sad thing is, what would be the purpose? What are they reaching for the TLC?
Right.
And that's where.
Yeah, it has the most meat to it. The only problem is the meat is raw. And there's nothing for them to grab at the top. And also, I don't think Orton nor Bray want to be taking bumps off that ladder.
No.
Whereas Owens has probably already thought about 15 ways he can nearly kill himself.
Well, the famous.
He's watching Pagano Chessman right now.
Well, the famous thing was he wanted to go off the pirate ship at the WrestleMania last year in his match against Seth Rollins. So he had to make do in the Performance Center, but he wanted to go off something big of the stage in that big stadium.
If Roman spears him off the turnbuckle through the floor and through a table, we'll know what they've been watching. We'll know.
There's one last match that's been booked for TLC, nothing too memorable, but the Hurt Business has been one of my favorite acts on Raw. A very disappointing Raw over the last 6 months. But
they are the Roman Reigns of Raw.
Well, I'm going to say Sheamus is right now. He's been putting on great matches. Again, well, he had the best match against AJ Styles on Raw last week. We've talked about the Riddle matches. He's been a highlight, but very odd. You don't want him in the main event either because he's still not that top guy.
That is weird. You would not think of him as the highlight, but he is the common denominator in all those really, really good things there. Well done to you, Sheamus. Well done.
I don't think it's hard. You're hard pressed to find a bad Sheamus match. You're going to be finding a lot of matches that are falling flat because the story wasn't great or his character wasn't all that intriguing at the time. But when it comes to delivering in the match, he's pretty dependable. And
he was boned by some terrible booking in those early years. And
that Triple H stuff just didn't do him any favors.
Triple H, the Daniel Bryan thing.
Yeah, the babyface push, right?
Beat him in 18. He's never recovered from that. Never recovered from that. But he's a great talent. Mm-hmm. If he had gone to New Japan at some point, he'd be like Tomohiro Ishii over there. He'd be having matches like that. He's a great talent. He does have charisma. Mm-hmm. He's a very talented guy, but he was, the booking at one point and that terrible look he had at one point too, where he had to get that look for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Right. Gotcha.
But
returning back to the Hurt Business, who have also been a highlight over the last 6 months, they are challenging for the titles once again against the New Day. Which has been a decent story on Raw, but it's been a very mid-card, 3-star regular match. It's weird. Out of everyone in the Hurt Business, Cedric Alexander seems to be the star, and I don't think anyone would have predicted that 6 months ago.
Hey, it's good. He's a good worker.
Great worker.
Yeah, great worker. I mean, it's about time. He had been wanting something. They had not been giving him anything to do, and this stable came along, and he finally got something to do, and
it's weird because you think back to when 205 Live was something worth talking about, and I apologize to any 205 Live fans, but Ali and Cedric were highlights and baby faces that were just natural baby faces. You wanted to cheer them on. You wanted them to get their big title moments and move on to the main roster.
And they're finally...
Yeah, exactly. And they're doing it really well as heels. I think Cedric has the help of being part of a very good stable where he could stand out
tremendously right there too.
Yeah. Whereas I don't think he could do the role that Ali is doing as the leader of a stable. No. He doesn't have the chops to work the mic the way MVP does, but as MVP carries the stable on the mic and Cedric adds his little lines and does some of the backstage segments and ends up being pretty much the best worker of the bunch. He's really been phenomenal. Cedric Alexander, I hope he wins the title purely because I've been enjoying his work over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think it would just be nice to do something new in that position there and because the New Day, they hold the titles pretty much all year at this point. It is interesting you bring that up about Cedric and Ali, because if you think about it, that's like the WWE thing. Sami Zayn was another guy. Pac they're such natural baby faces. Suddenly they're heels. Why did they turn them heels? And then they turn out to be better heels than baby faces in WWE, which I think tells you more about how WWE books baby faces there.
True.
Especially 205 Live was a separate thing from Vince. Vince was away from that. I don't remember who. I think there was Triple H or was somebody else who booked that show.
I have no idea.
Time where Ali and Cedric were there. So
I seem to recall Dewey Foley being part of the writing team, but I don't know who was
Adam
booking
Pearce,
it.
I think, was involved or something too. But there they were able to be natural baby faces and such, but then they get brought up to Raw or SmackDown and Vince is in charge and Vince is like, oh, Mustafa Ali, he's too ethnic for me. Or so you know Vince is gonna say that right there. Cedric, he's too bland for me.
Oh, I thought you were going with a different word starting with
No,
there.
No. Although he may have done that too, unfortunately.
I'd say back in the 80s, that's probably his thinking. I'm hoping in 2020 he has a bit more logic.
We are hoping you have evolved, Vince, but we are not optimistic about it at the same time.
Vince, I got to tell you, bland lives matter, okay?
Oh, good. Mojo's very happy. And, Pac and Sammy were the same way. And I mean, look, obviously it's good that they were able to develop into good bad guys too. It shows versatility, but it does just make you go, man, they have such the can't miss baby faces. And then they got to turn them heel because you work them as baby faces.
WWE does not know how to book a baby face. They rarely know how to book a heel, but they get it right every once in a while. Whereas they know
how to book Drew.
Well, even then, I think it's more along the lines of they're just booking him well as anything. He could be a tweener right now. He'd be in a good position. And they leave him alone almost. But he's still not. He's more, you look back in time, and we've said this over a couple of shows where Bret Hart and Shawn are great faces of the company, but they're not Austin or Rock or Hogan or Cena, maybe even.
It is telling now that you say that. Drew has pretty much been champion for the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at Roman and you look at Kenny. Roman's only been champion for a few months. Kenny, it's only been a few weeks. They're both significantly hotter than Drew has ever been.
Correct. Drew had the momentum from Royal Rumble to WrestleMania, but you look at anything he did before Royal Rumble, he didn't have that major feud that booted him up to the main event. He just happened to show up and be the right guy.
Yeah, he kind of just won it.
Yeah. He didn't have that long run. You go back to 2004, Randy Orton, he was the IC champion for about 9 months. And then, he lost it to Edge, and then he won the world title against some forgettable person, apparently. And then, that's what ascended him to the main event. He might not have been ready, but at least he had that memorable reason to move up to the main event. WWE hasn't done that very well with their baby faces for I don't know how long.
No, they've forgotten the stepping stone thing.
Yeah.
Because the IC title used to be that, and now it's just a prop, pretty much.
It's almost like, these people didn't make it in the main event. Let's give them something else to work with instead, like what they did with Nakamura after he won the Rumble. He didn't win the title from AJ, so they gave him I can't remember, I think it was the US title first. And that's what Bobby Lashley did. He had the championship shot against Drew earlier this year. Didn't work out with him, so let's put the US title on him instead. So there is no stepping stone. It's more of a stepping down stone.
Yeah. Well, that's WWE for you. Hopefully at some point it changes. It's probably not changing anytime soon.
No, and neither is Vince's face with all that Botox in it.
No.
That was...
What a way to close this one out right there.
I am very happy with my gray hair, and yes, I'll cover up what I am losing with a hat every once in a while, but I'm almost at 40. I'm 11 months away from being 40 years old. I'm going to accept it. Hopefully Vince accepts it and moves his way out of WWE sooner rather than later.
I don't need to accept anything.
Yeah. On that note, you are correct. Let's sign things off. Did you have any podcasts that you needed to advertise related to Lucha Central?
No, I mean we do have
set you up for nothing.
No, there's nothing that I've been told. I mean, we have a lot of great podcasts otherwise. Oh, we do have Masked Mats and Mayhem. They come before us, so you could listen to them. That probably is out by now, I would imagine.
Nice.
We have a lot of great Triple Mania stuff. We had a Triple Mania watch along with pretty much a bunch of our other podcasters. I did not make it, unfortunately, but you could listen to that.
You weren't invited to that party?
I was invited to it, but I was writing the review, I wanted to concentrate on the review. I have attention problems occasionally, I'm told. So anyway, so we have all of that stuff. We're going to have more great shows, even if I don't remember them off the top. It's a great site. We got great people. We have the best people, as some people leaving office soon would say. Unlike him, I mean it when I say that. So we have that. I'm taking the week off from writing pretty much. I did all that Triple Mania stuff last week. I will have a dark review tonight. I am excited about that because, like tomorrow, Evilise is on the show tonight, and I'm a big fan. It's just true.
She's a great... With women especially, you don't see a lot of stiff workers. A lot of them work very light.
Legitimately intense.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that's something that in any promotion I find they're lacking. And Evilise does not worry about that she will connect with you. There might be potatoes, but I'd much rather have a Steve Regal. Oh my, shows my age there. William Regal, but some real shots.
Steve was better than William. Let's just call it that.
Yeah, probably. That's pretty fair.
I mean,
stuff.
He had a great match with Sting once, that Steve Regal, at the legendary Great American Bash 1996. What a show. What a show. I can't say what the best match on that show is, though, because it's Kevin Sullivan versus someone we cannot mention out loud. I cringe.
Might have lost the title against Randy Orton once.
Yeah, Dean Malenko used to hang out with this chap, from what I'm told.
Is hanging the right word you want to use for describing?
Oh, no.
All right. So on that very low blow of a note,
the show is ending for good. We will see you. Leave the memories alone.
Go hang out with whoever you want to. Just don't hang out for too long. And have a happy holiday. And well, we're still a week away from having to say that. But enjoy your December and take care of yourselves. Thank you very much, Eric, for joining me once again.
Hey, as always, a great time. Happy to be here. Other stuff. Let's move it along now. Bye, everybody.
Take care.